Here we go. All right. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Um, it's Tremaine, your go-to financial strategist, helping you manage money better. And this morning we're going to be diving into a question that's probably more important than how you make your money, right? Um, we're going to be talking about how much you actually need to save for retirement. So, um, kind of give you a rundown. I'm looking over here at my notes. We'll talk about how you can find your retirement number. We're going to talk about the difference between lean fire, fat fire, and barista fire. Barista fire is something that's new to me. Um, I learned about it when I was doing some research about this. We're going to talk about how to replace active income with passive income. And then we'll talk about how you can get a plan in place even if you're just getting started. So, you know, even if you're just getting started and you feel like you're behind. So this will be a good session for folks to tune in. If you feel like you need a little bit of clarity around how do I get the numbers, right? How do I get the numbers around what I should be chasing so that what I'm doing with my money just makes a little bit more sense. So, if you are somebody who's like, I don't know what I'm doing for retirement, I have no idea how much I should save, how I should go about it, this stream is for you. All right. So, let's talk about waking up, right? Especially for my folks who are like millennials, Gen Z. That's the group that's behind us. Sometimes I mix it up with Gen X, right? But we need a wake up call, right? Retirement is not an age. Retirement is about cash flow and assets. And oftentimes we kind of get this idea in our head that if you're in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s, right, you got 20, 30, 40 more years until retirement. And the reality is, retirement is not guaranteed at a particular age. Right? Retirement is about being able to stop trading time for money. And so, if you are not diligently preparing for that point, then 65 is going to creep up on you, and all you will have is whatever Social Security or whatever plan is in place that you may not have been actively contributing to. Um, and then you won't have as much control over what your retirement period looks like, right? Maybe not having everything that you want to have in order to do the things you want to do when you have that more free time, more flexibility, right? So being intentional with retirement planning allows you to say, hey, I know that in my retirement years, I want to travel more, right? And being able to set aside however much money is going to be required to be able to do all the things you want to do. So that's why we talk about retirement so early, right? Is because the sooner you start to plan for it, the more control you have over what it looks like for you. So, if you don't want to work forever, some key things that you need to make sure you are planning for is knowing your target number. So, in this race of building assets and building wealth, what is the minimum number you need to do all the things that you want to do? You want to have a strategy for how to build towards that. So, what accounts, systems, tools, resources, what are you using to get there? And then you want to have clarity around what type of freedom and flexibility do you want, right? I alluded to it briefly about being able to travel and do those kinds of things, but maybe travel is not on your list. Maybe your list is literally being able to just sit on the porch and drink the lemonade, right? So, whatever freedom looks like for you is how you're going to dictate how much money is needed to create that freedom. All right, so I got a question for you in the comments if you're watching this live or watching this on the replay. The first question is, if money wasn't an issue at all, what age would you retire, right? And sometimes I work with clients and they're like, tomorrow, right? They're ready to just do whatever they want to do right now. So I'm asking you, if money wasn't an issue, what age would you retire? All right, so now let's get into some of these FIRE frameworks. So, FIRE is financial independence, retire early. I'm going to cover three different types of FIRE where you can employ these depending on the type of retirement lifestyle you want to have. So, the first one is lean fire, right? Lean only covers your essential expenses. So, it sounds just like lean, right? bare necessity. So you want to identify how much money does it take you to cover your exact living expenses. So essentials. We're not talking about like doing anything lavish. This is the bare minimum. That's what Lean Fire is going to calculate. So what you'll do is you'll take that number. So let's say it's $30,000 a year to cover all of your essentials, and then you'll multiply that by 25. Okay. So 30,000 times 25 is $750,000. So that is your Lean Fire number. And so you know that if you're able to get to $750,000, more often than not, you'll have what you need to cover your essentials and retirement. And when you get to that number, you'll be able to stop working. Okay. Now, Fat Fire, on the other hand, is what it sounds like. It's the opposite of lean. Fat Fire is you being able to do all the things you want to do. And so this might look like travel and luxury cars, luxury homes, things like that. It gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more cushion. The good thing about Fat Fire is you may get to retirement and realize you got too much money, right? Because you don't actually want to continue traveling as much. And maybe you want to experience some downsizing, right? But saving for a Fat Fire experience gives you more cushion than just the bare essentials, right? And so to calculate Fat Fire, you start to think about higher end wants and desires, and you budget that into what it could look like. So, for an example, we're going to say $120,000, and this is assuming like mortgage is paid off, right? Let's say $120,000 a year, and then you multiply that by 25, that gives you a number of 3 million. So stark difference between $750,000 and 3 million. But the difference between the two is the cushion that allows you to do some things that you may not be able to do with just saving for the bare essentials. And then we have my favorite new thing that I learned about, which is Barista Fire. So this is where you are probably in this camp if you really love what you do, where you might say, I'm going to keep working, right? And so you may get to a place where you have enough retirement money to cover your essentials, and kind of the core of what you plan to do in retirement, but you want to have a part-time gig, and you still want to do, maybe 20 hours a week of work, whatever that would look like, right? And so when we think about a barista, we don't really think of that as a career move. We think of that as a gig type work. It's something I'm doing for the moment, right? And so to calculate your Barista Fire number, let's say, for example, you need or want $60,000 a year, and your gig work is going to be $20,000 a year that you're doing some part-time work for. That would mean you would only need 40K a year to come from investments or assets. So for that, you would do your $40,000 times 25, and that's going to yield you $1 million nest egg, right? So Barista Fire is a little bit more than Lean Fire, right? Because it still affords you a little bit more than just the essentials, but because you are doing additional part-time work, now you might be able to do some additional things that won't directly impact drawing down those assets that you have set in that nest egg. All right, so based on what you've heard so far, are you more likely to engage with Fat Fire, Lean Fire, or Barista Fire? And I can think just off the top of my head of a couple clients who've said, I am not going to stop working, and Barista Fire might be something that is in their lane. All right. So we have talked about Lean Fire, Fat Fire, different ways to calculate a retirement number. But now we want to talk about what does it actually mean to be able to retire? And this is getting yourself to a place where you are replacing your active income with passive income. And there are lots of different ways to do it. And a lot of this is going to be predicated on where do you feel most comfortable, what resources are available to you, and how you want that cash flow to look. Some of this has different tax considerations. So, all of this is why we get into a space where we are starting to work with a financial planner, because they make all the different assets move and work together, right? So, different types of ways that you can build income streams. They could look like rental income. This one is super popular for people who are like, hey, I'm not trying to wait to build up several hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to then withdraw a little bit from it in my retirement years. I want to start getting to a place where the assets that I have are paying me now, right? Or getting to a place where I just need to acquire a couple more properties, and that might pull retirement closer to you because you have this asset that is cash flowing right now. So you can also have dividends from index funds, right? And this is what you might see inside of some of your investment portfolios, right? And that could be something that's inside of your Roth IRA or even a brokerage account. There's dividends that are being paid out to you. It also could be business income that doesn't require your time. So we work a lot with small business owners, and primarily many of them are in the phase where it requires a lot of their time. But you can get to a place where inside of your journey, you are not the technician that is doing the work, but you are just the owner who has a check coming because of their ownership, right? So think more about how when you own parts of um, Apple or some of these larger companies, you are not in the day to day of that business, but when they do pay out because you have ownership, you get compensated, right? So that's how you want to think about any business that you might have, is you being in the day to day of it, having to trade time for money is not really the same as having the flexibility to step away from the business and the business still run and you get to collect a check because you are the owner. Then also there could be money that comes in from royalties or any digital products that you might have set up where you're not even having to manually put forth any effort to promote those digital products. I was talking about digital products with a client yesterday. And like the upfront work to set it up, yes, there is active um, effort required. But once it is in place, now this can become something that is a passive income opportunity. And then, of course, withdrawals from your retirement accounts. So these are ways that you're building the income streams, the way the money is coming in, so that you're able to leverage it in retirement without you actually having to do any work to collect a paycheck or to withdraw any money from your business. So, my next question for you, you can let me know in the comments. If you had to choose one income stream to add this year, what would it be? Would it be, maybe some dividend income? Would it be real estate or rental income? Are you going to choose some business income? What would it be? Like, what most aligns with what you would like to see happening in your finances? All right, so now we're going to get into some of the common questions that folks ask. I like to do 10 questions during my lives. Question number one: how much should I save monthly? So it's hard to say, save $500, right? A better way to approach this is a percentage. So, from the clients that I see that are doing exceptionally well, those who are saving over 25% are positioning themselves to have very nice retirement savings, right? But if you're in a place in your journey where 25% is just unreasonable, then start where you can, right? Start at 5 and then increase to 10. But ideally, we really want to be somewhere between 20 and 30%. And that is going to put us in a position where we will have enough money available to do more if we want to do in retirement. And it's not a matter of sitting and waiting until this next pay period comes. Okay. So the more the better, right? But if we're at a place where we're just getting started, you start with what you can and then you can continue to increase that percentage over time. Question number two: is it too late to retire early if I'm over 40? So, when we talk about retiring early, we're talking about retiring before full retirement age. And so, years ago, full retirement age used to be 65. Now it is 67. And so if you're over 40 and you're trying to figure out, okay, can I still retire before 67? The answer is yes. It's just going to take some strategy. So this may be an indication of where you start to think about what are ways that you can pull retirement closer based on the asset. So it might be rental income, right? It might be business income. It might be things that are going to yield returns faster than building up a nest egg and waiting for withdrawals or dividend income. Question number 3. Can I reach FIRE with a small business? So FIRE is financial independence, retire early. 100% yes, right? Because as a business owner, you control expenses, you control profit, you control the investments. And so you have an opportunity to decide how much of that you're going to allocate to your retirement strategy. So thinking about retirement, oftentimes, we like to separate folks into camps, like people who are W 2 employees or people who are entrepreneurs. And the reality is, how you make the money doesn't matter. What matters is your strategy for building and growing it. Okay. Well, I should preface that. How the money is made does impact how it's taxed. But more important than that is strategy for how am I multiplying this money. So, yes, if you're a small business owner, you can absolutely reach FIRE, but you have to be intentional with controlling expenses, increasing profit, and then investing so that you can get to that number. Question number 4. What is the 4% rule? And so we don't really hear about the 4% rule as much as we used to. That was kind of like the gold standard for how much you're going to withdraw in retirement in order not to run out of money in retirement. And so this is the understanding that if your investments are generating enough return, you withdrawing 4% will ensure that you don't outlive your money. Okay. And so this allows your nest egg to serve you all the years of your retirement and not dwindle rapidly. Okay. But you have to make sure that it is invested wisely, and the value of the portfolio is not decreasing such that if you continue withdrawing the 4%, you will run out of money rapidly. All right. Question number 5. Should I prioritize saving or earning more? The answer is both. Okay. So income is what allows you to have options, right? When you have another check coming in, another stream of revenue coming in, now you have the ability to deploy that to do something, right? You're not limited by whatever's just in your hand because something else is coming. But savings and investments, they give you cushion, they give you flexibility because you're not only waiting for whatever new money is coming into the account. So you want to have a combination of saving strategy and also generating more income because that's going to give you the best balance of both worlds. Question number 6. Can real estate be my retirement strategy? Yes, but it has to be cash flowing, right? We like to acquire assets and we love that things will give us equity, right? Where we could pull the money out to do something with it, but equity alone is not a retirement strategy. Okay. Um, Cash flow is what is needed from the real estate so that all the expenses associated with owning the asset are covered, and now you can take that positive cash flow to cover any personal bills or things that you want to do. So yes, real estate can be your retirement strategy, but it has to have cash flow. Question number 7. Can I invest if I still have debt? Yes. So we get this question all the time. The strategy here is to identify what is top priority. If I have high interest debt, then it's important that I focus on getting that debt paid off while I'm investing. But if I have low interest debt, then I may not be as aggressive to pay that down because my money is more better spent um investing to get a higher return. So you don't want to completely stop saving and investing for retirement while you're paying off debt, because we talk about compound interest and it being important. But you do want to get to a place where you don't have as high interest on the debt that you're paying, because it is eating up the returns that you might be gaining in your assets. Question number 8. Which accounts should I use for retirement? So, of course, this is largely going to depend on, you know, the way that you are compensated, right? If you have a W 2 job, if your employer has a plan that sponsors you, and if you have access to that, all of those great things, right? But typically, we're going to be talking about putting money into your employer sponsor plan if you have that. And if you are the employer, creating one, right? So that could be a 401k. That could look like, if you are self-employed, that could be a SEP IRA. There's all types of different accounts you can set up. But in general, most people are going to start somewhere with a type of individual retirement account that, no matter how you're employed or how you earn income, you'll be able to leverage it. So traditional or Roth, and those are going to be predicated on what you want to happen with the dollars, and if you're going to invest in it before or after taxes. Question number 9. What is the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to retirement? 100% it is waiting. It is delaying until they feel ready, right? And one of the most powerful things is time when we're talking about investing. It's having time on our side for the assets to compound and grow. So, even if you can only do $100 a month, that matters, right? It adds up over time. And so there's no need to wait until you can do 500, 1,000, multiple thousands of dollars a month, because there's also no guarantee that point in time will ever come. So start with what you can as soon as you can, so you can start to take advantage of that compounding interest. And then, of course, last question: how do we know when it's time to work with somebody? If you don't have any clarity or direction. So, if you're feeling stuck, or especially if you want to retire early, that's probably more of a reason to hire a financial planner, because they are going to put together the strategy for you. I like to look at it as like Tetris, right? Making the assets fit where they best fit in order to have the best outcome. So, yeah, this is how you can identify how much money you need for retirement and ways that you can move forward with confidence. So, if you would like this, of course, like, comment, subscribe, so we can make sure more people are getting access to this information. And we send out a weekly newsletter. It's called This Oil is Expensive. So, if you'd like to join that newsletter, you can tap the link in the description. And if you're watching this and you realize, hey, I need some one-on-one support, I offer complimentary consultations. So you can tap the link in the description to get one of those. All right, guys. So this was fun. I will see you next time for another money conversation. Have a great day.